You're budgeting to save. They're budgeting to buy assets. What if every dollar you saved made you poorer? Rich people look cheap, broke people look rich. Why? The difference isn't income. It's where money goes after it hits the account. Here are 3 gaps we'll close today. Why billionaires drive old cars but own the car company. Why they skip $200 dinners but drop $2 million without blinking. Why their cheap habits make them richer while your responsible habits keep you stuck. The wealthy spend more than you think, just never where you're looking. This audiobook reveals the spending blueprint that multiplies money instead of burning it. By the end, you'll know exactly where every dollar should go to build wealth, not just maintain comfort. Let me paint you a picture. 2 people walk into a coffee shop. The first person pulls up in a $70,000 BMW, wearing a Rolex, carrying the latest iPhone. The second person arrives on a 10-year-old Honda Civic, wearing a plain t-shirt and jeans, checking a phone that's 3 generations old. Which one is actually wealthy? If you guess the BMW driver, you've fallen for the oldest illusion in personal finance. The Honda driver owns 4 rental properties generating $6,000 a month in passive income. The BMW driver is 3 payments behind on the lease and carrying $18,000 in credit card debt. This isn't a fairy tale. This is the reality playing out in every city, every day, all around you. The spending illusion is the silent wealth killer nobody talks about. We've been conditioned to believe that spending equals success, that looking wealthy is the same as being wealthy. But here's the truth that changes everything. There are exactly 2 types of spending, and understanding the difference between them is the line that separates those who build wealth from those who stay broke forever. Consumption spending is money that disappears. You hand it over, you get something that loses value immediately, and that money is gone forever. It's the depreciating car, the outfit worn twice, the gadget replaced next year, the vacation that exists only in photos. Investment spending is money that returns with friends. You hand it over, you get something that grows in value or generates income, and that money comes back multiplied. It's the rental property generating monthly checks, the dividend stock paying you quarterly, the business equipment creating revenue, the skill that increases your earning power. Your brain desperately wants to treat these 2 types of spending as the same thing. It wants to tell you that buying a luxury car is an investment in your image, that designer clothes are an investment in your confidence, that the expensive watch is an investment in quality. But these are lies we tell ourselves to justify consumption. An investment by definition must return more than it costs. If it doesn't generate income or appreciate significantly, it's consumption, period. Here's where it gets painful. Most people spend 90% of their disposable income on consumption and 10% on investment, then wonder why wealth never arrives. Wealthy people flip this ratio. They spend the minimum required on consumption and pour everything else into investments. The psychological trap runs deep because spending feels like winning. You worked hard, you earned the money, you deserve the reward. The act of purchasing triggers a dopamine hit in your brain. You feel successful. You feel like you're treating yourself well. The problem is that this feeling lasts about 6 hours, maybe a day, if you really love the purchase. Then it fades. The item becomes normal, unremarkable, just another thing you own. Meanwhile, the money you spent is gone forever. Let me show you what this looks like in real numbers. Take 2 people who both have $80,000 to spend. The first person buys a brand new truck. It's beautiful, powerful, impressive. Everyone notices when they pull up. The second person puts that $80,000 into a diversified dividend portfolio yielding 4%. Over 10 years, the truck is worth maybe $30,000 if they maintained it well. The driver paid for insurance, gas, maintenance, and repairs. Probably another $40,000 total. They're in the hole $90,000. The dividend portfolio. It generated $32,000 in dividends over those 10 years, all of which were reinvested. The portfolio is now worth $120,000. The total difference between these 2 choices isn't just the value of the assets today. It's the $120,000 versus negative $90,000. A $210,000 gap from one decision. Now let's talk about visibility, because this is where most people get trapped. There's a phenomenon researchers call the wealth visibility paradox. Actual wealth and visible wealth move in opposite directions. Study after study confirms this. 67% of millionaires drive cars over 3 years old. Half shop at Walmart. The average millionaire's car is worth less than $30,000. Meanwhile, the people driving $60,000 cars, wearing $3,000 watches, carrying $2,000 handbags, most of them have negative net worth. They look successful while being financially underwater. Why does this happen? Because there's a signaling cost to appearing wealthy, and that cost is enormous. Every month you pay for the luxury car lease, the designer wardrobe, the upscale apartment in the trendy neighborhood, the expensive dinners, the exclusive gym membership. All of this spending is designed to broadcast one message to the world: I am successful. But here's what's actually happening. You're paying thousands of dollars monthly for strangers to think you're wealthy, while guaranteeing you'll never actually become wealthy. The money that could be growing in investments is instead evaporating into status symbols. Let me introduce you to the spending matrix, a simple tool that will change how you see every purchase. Draw a square and divide it into 4 quadrants. The vertical axis represents cost, low to high. The horizontal axis represents return, low to high. This gives you 4 categories: low cost, low return; low cost, high return; high cost, low return; high cost, high return. Most people concentrate their spending in the low cost, low return quadrant and the high cost, low return quadrant. Fast fashion, cheap electronics that break, eating out constantly, subscription services they don't use, expensive cars, luxury goods. Wealthy people concentrate their spending in the low cost, high return quadrant and selectively in the high cost, high return quadrant. Used cars that are reliable, index funds, rental properties, business equipment that generates revenue, education that increases earning power. Here's your first real exercise. And I want you to actually do this, not just listen and forget. Pull out your bank statement or credit card statement from the last 90 days. Write down your 20 largest purchases. Be honest, include everything. Now categorize each one. Is it consumption or investment? Consumption means it lost value or provided temporary satisfaction. Investment means it generates income or appreciates in value. Calculate the percentage split. If you're like most people, you'll find that 80 to 95% of your spending is pure consumption. 80% of your spending creates 0% of your wealth. Let that sink in for a moment. Now let's talk about why this happens, because you're not stupid and you're not reckless. You're human. Your brain is wired with mechanisms that made sense 10,000 years ago, but sabotage wealth building today. When you spend money on something you want, your brain releases dopamine. It's the same neurochemical released when you eat sugar, have sex, or use drugs. Your brain experiences spending as a reward, as pleasure, as achieving something. This is the consumption addiction, and it's just as real as any other addiction. Retailers know this. Advertisers know this. The entire economy is built around triggering your consumption impulses. You see an ad showing a happy, successful person using a product. Your brain creates an association. Buy this product, become that person. You scroll through social media and see friends, influencers, celebrities displaying their purchases. Your brain screams, you're falling behind, you need to keep up, you deserve this too. Every psychological trigger is being pulled to make you consume. Breaking this addiction requires rewiring your spending triggers. Right now, your brain treats spending as a reward. You had a hard week, you deserve to treat yourself. You got a promotion, time to celebrate with a purchase. You're feeling down, retail therapy will help. Every one of these is your brain seeking a dopamine hit through consumption. The rewiring process is simple but not easy. You must create a new association. Spending is not a reward, it's resource allocation. Every dollar is a soldier in your wealth-building army. When you spend $1 on consumption, you're sending that soldier to die for temporary pleasure. When you spend $1 on investment, you're sending that soldier to recruit more soldiers. Over time, your investment soldiers build an army that works for you forever. Let me tell you about asset thinking, because this is the fundamental mental shift that separates wealth builders from everyone else. Wealthy people see every dollar as a seed. Everyone else sees every dollar as fuel. Fuel burns. You pour it in, it provides temporary energy, then it's gone, and you need more. Seeds multiply. You plant them, they grow, they produce fruit, and that fruit contains more seeds. 1 seed becomes 10. 10 become 100. 100 become 1. Let's scale this up. A $40,000 car versus investing $40,000 at 10% annual returns. After 10 years, the car is worth maybe $15,000. You've lost $25,000 to depreciation. Plus you paid for insurance, gas, and maintenance. Let's call it another $20,000 in total costs. You're negative $45,000. The investment? It's now worth $104,000. The difference isn't $40,000. It's $149,000. One decision, $149,000 impact. This is why wealthy people obsess over their spending in ways that seem crazy to everyone else. They're not being cheap. They're playing a completely different game. Every spending decision is an investment decision. Every dollar kept out of consumption is a dollar that can multiply. Now let me give you a filter you can use right now, today, before any purchase over $500. Ask 3 questions. Does this generate income? Does this appreciate in value? Does this free my time to generate more income? If the answer to all 3 is no, apply the 72-hour rule and the 10x test. Wait 72 hours before buying. Most impulse purchases lose their emotional charge after 3 days. If you still want it, apply the 10x test. Would you buy this if it cost 10 times more? If not, you don't really value it. You're just responding to the price. Let me tell you a story about a woman named Sarah. She loved books. She was spending about $300 a month on books, which over a year is $3,600. She read a lot of them, but many sat on her shelf unread. One day she did the math. $3,600 invested annually at 8% returns would give her $529,000 in 30 years. That number shocked her awake. She made a decision. She would take that $300 monthly and buy assets instead of books. She started with dividend stocks. Within 2 years, her dividend income was $100 a month. She used that $100 to buy more dividend stocks. By year 5, her dividend income was $400 a month. She was getting close to replacing her book budget with passive income. By year 10, her portfolio was generating $1,000 monthly. She could now afford to buy all the books she wanted and still have $700 a month left over to reinvest. The most important part, she got her books from the library during those first 10 years and realized she didn't miss ownership at all. She read more books than ever because she wasn't trying to justify purchases. That's the asset snowball. You start with whatever you can scrape together. Maybe it's $100 a month. You put it into income-producing assets. Those assets start generating returns. You reinvest every penny. The returns grow. Eventually, the returns themselves are bigger than your initial contributions. That's when compounding catches fire. The first $100,000 is brutally hard. It takes years of sacrifice and discipline. But once you hit $100,000 invested, the math shifts in your favor. $100,000 at 10% annual returns generates $10,000 a year without you doing anything. That $10,000 reinvested becomes $11,000 in returns the next year, then $12,000. The snowball accelerates. Here's what I want you to do right now. Calculate your current seed-to-fuel ratio. Take your monthly investment spending. That's money going to assets that generate income or appreciate. Divide it by your total monthly spending. If you invest $500 a month and spend $3,000 total, your ratio is 0.16 or 16%. That's actually better than average. Most people are below 10%. Wealthy people are above 50%. Set a 90-day target to shift your ratio by 10%. If you're at 16%, target 26%. This means cutting consumption or increasing income or both. Now let's talk about depreciation because this is where most people hemorrhage wealth without even knowing it. Depreciation is the silent thief. It's money vanishing from your net worth while you sleep. The new car is the most obvious catastrophe. The average new car loses 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. Not after a year, immediately. Within 5 years, it's lost 60% of its value. If you bought a $40,000 car, it's worth $16,000 5 years later. You lost $24,000 just to own and drive it, and that's before factoring in insurance, gas, maintenance, and repairs. Here's what wealthy people do. They buy 2 to 3-year-old luxury cars if they want luxury, or they drive 10-year-old Hondas and Toyotas if they prioritize function. A 3-year-old luxury car has already taken the massive depreciation hit. The original owner absorbed that loss. You get a car that's barely broken in for 40% less than new, or you buy a 10-year-old Honda Civic for $6,000, drive it for another 10 years with minimal maintenance costs, and invest the $34,000 you didn't spend on a new car. The $34,000 invested at 8% becomes $73,000 in 10 years. You drove the same number of miles, got to the same destinations, but you're $73,000 wealthier. Can you think of a single good reason to buy a new car? I'm serious. Stop and think. The only valid reason is if the car is a business tool that generates more revenue than it costs. If you're a real estate agent and the new car closes deals that wouldn't have closed otherwise, maybe it pays for itself. If you're driving for personal transportation, there is no financial justification for buying new. The wardrobe money pit is just as destructive but more socially acceptable. The average American spends $1,800 per year on clothing. Much of that is fast fashion, stuff that falls apart or goes out of style within a year. That $1,800 invested annually at 8% becomes $260,000 over 30 years. Or you could have a closet full of clothes you wore once or never wore at all. The wealthy approach is different. They build capsule wardrobes, 30 to 50 high-quality, timeless pieces that mix and match into hundreds of outfits. They buy quality items that last 5 to 10 years. They ignore trends. They often wear uniforms. Mark Zuckerberg wears the same gray shirt every day. Steve Jobs wore the same black turtleneck. Barack Obama rotated between 2 suit colors. Why? Because every decision you make drains mental energy. If you spend 20 minutes every morning deciding what to wear, that's 2 hours per week, over 100 hours per year, wasted on a decision that doesn't matter. Wealthy people automate low-value decisions to preserve mental energy for high-value decisions. Here's the cost per wear calculation. A $200 pair of quality leather boots that you wear 200 times per year for 10 years costs you 10 cents per wear. A $60 pair of cheap boots that falls apart after 2 years and 100 wears costs you 60 cents per wear. The expensive boots are actually 6 times cheaper. This is why wealthy people will spend money on items they use constantly and refuse to spend money on items they use rarely. Now let's talk about lifestyle inflation, the silent wealth killer that destroys more financial futures than any other force. Here's how it works. You get a raise. You were making $50,000, now you're making $60,000. That's $10,000 more per year, about $800 more per month after taxes. Your brain immediately starts calculating what you can now afford. A nicer apartment, a better car, more dinners out, vacations, upgrades. Within 3 months, your spending has risen to match your new income. You're back to living paycheck to paycheck, just with more stuff. 10 years pass. You're now making $90,000. You've had multiple raises, but you have the same net worth you had at $50,000 or worse because you also accumulated debt to support the lifestyle inflation. Here's the alternative reality. You get that raise from 50 to 60. You keep living on 50. You take the entire $10,000 increase and invest it. Every single year you invest $10,000. In 30 years at 8% returns, that's $1.1 million. From one decision. From one moment of saying no to lifestyle inflation and yes to wealth building. Every raise you get for the rest of your career is a fork in the road. One path leads to slightly more comfort now and the same financial stress forever. The other path leads to freedom. Let me tell you about 2 men, Marcus and David. Picture this. They're sitting in a coffee shop 10 years after graduation. Marcus pulls up in a new BMW designer suit. Rolex on his wrist. He orders a $12 latte without looking at the price. David arrives on a bus. He's wearing khakis and a polo from Target. He orders a black coffee, $2. They catch up. Marcus talks about his new condo, his upcoming trip to Dubai, his boat he's thinking about buying. David listens quietly. Marcus asks what David's up to. Not much, David says. Same apartment. Same old Corolla. Just working and investing. Marcus feels a bit sorry for David. Poor guy never learned to enjoy life. They part ways. Marcus feels successful. David feels fine. Fast forward 20 more years. They're both 50. Marcus is making $200,000. Sounds impressive, but he's spending $180,000. His net worth? $400,000. He just realized he can't retire. Not for another 15 years at least, maybe longer. The panic is setting in. David? His investment account hit $2.8 million. His investments generate $120,000 per year. He quit his job at 50, not because he hated it. Because he could. He won. The game is over. He's free. Same starting point. Same careers. Completely different ending. The difference? Every time Marcus got a raise, he upgraded his life. Every time David got a raise, he invested the difference. This is the hedonic treadmill. When you upgrade your life, you get a happiness boost for about 3 to 6 months. Then you adapt. The new apartment becomes normal. The new car becomes just your car. The fancy dinners become routine. You're back to your baseline happiness level, but now you're locked into higher expenses. You need that income to maintain the lifestyle. You've trapped yourself. Wealthy people understand this. They intentionally stay below their means, not because they're suffering, but because they know the happiness boost from spending is temporary, while the freedom from investing is permanent. Here's something most people don't realize. The average household pays $237 per month on subscriptions, streaming services, gym memberships, app subscriptions, software, meal kits, subscription boxes. Add it up, and most people are shocked by the total. $237 per month is $2,844 per year. Invested at 8%, that becomes $540,000 in 30 years. You're paying $500,000 in opportunity costs to maintain subscriptions you barely use. Do this exercise right now. List every recurring charge hitting your accounts, every subscription, every membership, every auto-renewal. Be thorough. Now cancel 50% of them. Choose the ones you actually use and value. Cancel everything else. Take the money you free up and set up an automatic transfer to an investment account on the same day the subscription would have charged you. You won't miss most of these subscriptions, but you will notice the investment account growing month after month, year after year. Let's talk about experiences, because there's a popular idea floating around that you should spend money on experiences, not things. There's truth in this. Research shows experiences provide more lasting happiness than material goods. But here's what the advice misses. Expensive experiences can be just as financially destructive as expensive things. A $5,000 vacation burns $5,000 just as completely as a $5,000 watch. Both are gone forever. The question isn't experiences versus things. The question is, what's the return on this spending? Some experiences have genuine return. A trip that strengthens your relationship with your spouse or children creates memories and bonds that last forever. A learning experience that gives you a new skill increases your earning power. A retreat that shifts your perspective changes your life trajectory. These have returns beyond money. But a vacation to post on Instagram? A concert where you spend the whole time recording video? A restaurant meal you'll forget in a week? These are consumption masquerading as experiences. Here's the test. Will you remember this experience vividly in 10 years? Will it change you or your relationships in meaningful ways? If yes, it might be worth the cost. If no, you're burning money for a temporary dopamine hit. Wealthy people are selective about experiential spending. They design experiences that cost less but mean more. They take road trips instead of resort vacations. They host dinner parties instead of going to expensive restaurants. They explore local hiking trails instead of flying across the world. They've learned that the best experiences are often the cheapest ones, because the experience quality depends on who you're with and your state of mind, not how much you spent. Now I'm going to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. If you've been listening and thinking this all sounds too extreme, too restrictive, too focused on money at the expense of living, I want you to ask yourself something. What does freedom mean to you? For most people, freedom means having choices. The choice to work or not work. The choice to live where you want. The choice to spend time with people you love instead of people who pay you. The choice to pursue passions instead of paychecks. Here's the hard truth. Every dollar you spend on consumption is a vote against your future freedom. Every dollar you invest is a vote for it. You're not sacrificing by spending less on consumption. You're choosing freedom over fleeting pleasure. Let me take you through a visualization. Close your eyes if you're somewhere safe, or just imagine this vividly. Picture yourself 20 years from now. In one version of your future, you spent normally. You bought the things you wanted, took the trips, drove the nice car, wore the good clothes. You lived comfortably. Now you're 20 years older. You're still working because you have to. Your retirement accounts are thin. You're stressed about money. You're tired. You want to stop working, but you can't. You're trapped. Now picture a different version. You spent strategically for the last 20 years. You lived well below your means. You invested aggressively. You built assets. Now you're 20 years older. You haven't worked for pay in 5 years. Your investments generate more than enough to cover your expenses. You spend your days however you choose. You travel when you want. Work on projects you care about. Spend time with people you love. You're not trapped. You're free. Both of these futures are possible. The difference between them isn't luck or income. It's the spending decisions you make every single day starting today. Which future do you want? Let's shift gears and talk about what wealthy people actually spend money on. Because they do spend money. A lot of money. They're just extremely selective about where it goes. The first category is income-producing assets. This is where the bulk of wealth-building spending happens. Real estate that generates rental income. Stocks and index funds that pay dividends. Businesses that generate revenue. Intellectual property that creates royalties. Anything that pays you for owning it. Let me walk you through rental real estate because this is one of the most accessible income-producing assets. You buy a property for $150,000. You put 20% down, that's $30,000. You get a mortgage for the remaining $120,000. You rent it out for $1,500 per month. Your mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, and maintenance costs total $1,200 per month. You're cash flowing $300 monthly. That's $3,600 per year. Your return on your $30,000 investment is 12% annually, just from cash flow. But there's more. Your tenant is paying down your mortgage principal every month. Your property is likely appreciating. You're getting tax benefits from depreciation. The total return is often 15 to 25% annually. Now here's where it gets powerful. After 5 years, you've built equity in the property through mortgage paydown and appreciation. You do a cash-out refinance. You pull $50,000 out of the property tax-free. You use that $50,000 as down payments on 2 more rental properties. Now you own 3 properties generating cash flow and building equity. After another 5 years, you refinance all 3 and pull out $150,000. You buy 3 more properties. You now own 6 rentals, each generating $300 monthly. That's $1,800 per month total, $21,600 per year, from a $30,000 initial investment. This is how ordinary people build extraordinary wealth. They get started. They leverage the power of financing to control assets worth more than they have in cash. They let tenants pay the mortgages. They reinvest the equity in cash flow. They repeat. Within 10 to 15 years, they own enough rental property to replace their job income. This isn't theory. This is a proven, replicable system that thousands of people have used to achieve financial freedom. But here's what stops most people. The $30,000 down payment feels impossible. They're spending everything they make. There's nothing left to save. This is why the spending transformation has to come first. You have to free up money by cutting consumption. That's the seed money for your first investment. If you're spending $3,000 per month and making $4,000, you're saving $1,000. In 30 months, you have your down payment. 2.5 years. If you cut your spending to $2,500, you're saving $1,500 monthly. Now you have your down payment in 20 months, less than 2 years. The question is, can you live on less for 2 years to change your life forever? Let's talk about dividend investing, because this is even more accessible than real estate. You don't need $30,000 to start. You can start with $100. A dividend stock is a share in a company that pays out a portion of its profits to shareholders regularly, usually quarterly. If you own 100 shares of a stock trading at $50 per share, you own $5,000 worth. If that stock pays a 3% annual dividend, you receive $150 per year, $3,750. You invest $500 per month into dividend stocks. After 1 year, you have $6,000 invested. If the average yield is 4%, you're receiving $240 per year in dividends, $20 per month. You reinvest those dividends. Year 2, you invest another $6,000, plus your portfolio appreciated 8%, and you reinvested $240 in dividends. You now have about $13,000 invested, generating $520 annually. Year 3, you have $20,000, generating $800 annually. By year 10, you have $75,000, generating $3,000 annually. By year 20, you have $260,000, generating $10,400 annually. By year 30, you have $680,000, generating $27,000 annually, from $500 per month. That's it. No special knowledge, no perfect timing, no luck. Just consistent investing in dividend-paying companies and reinvesting every penny. The beautiful thing about dividends is they're passive. You don't manage properties. You don't deal with tenants. You don't fix toilets. You own shares in businesses that send you checks for doing nothing. Now let me tell you about a guy named James who understood this in his 20s. He was making $40,000 per year as a teacher. He lived with roommates to keep expenses low. He drove a 15-year-old car. He brought lunch from home. His friends thought he was cheap. He was saving $15,000 per year. Every month, he bought dividend stocks. He wasn't picky. He bought dividend aristocrats, companies that had raised their dividends for 25 consecutive years or more. Companies like Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, McDonald's, boring, stable, reliable companies. He did this for 15 years. By age 40, he had $350,000 in dividend stocks, generating $14,000 per year. He kept his teaching job because he loved it, but the pressure was gone. He wasn't teaching for the paycheck anymore. He was teaching because he wanted to. By 50, his portfolio was worth $800,000 and generating $32,000 annually. He was making almost as much from investments as from his salary. By 55, his investments generated more than his salary. He retired from teaching. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to travel and write. His dividends paid for everything. He never had a high income. He just spent like he was broke and invested the difference. This is the path available to everyone. It doesn't require a six-figure income. It requires spending discipline and time. The younger you start, the more time does the heavy lifting. If you're 25 and you start investing $500 per month at 8% returns, you'll have $1.4 million by 65. If you're 35 and start, you'll have $600,000. If you're 45 and start, you'll have $270,000. Time is the multiplier. The cost of waiting is exponential. Let's talk about business equipment versus toys, because this is where wealthy people's spending looks insane to outsiders. A wealthy person will drive a 15-year-old Camry, but drop $10,000 on a camera and lighting setup without blinking. Why? Because the car is transportation, a cost center. The camera is a business tool, a profit center. The camera books wedding photography gigs at $3,000 per weekend. It pays for itself in 4 weekends. Everything after that is profit. The Camry gets them to the wedding venues but generates zero revenue. So they minimize spending on the car and maximize spending on the camera. This is the mental shift. Before buying anything, ask, is this a cost center or a profit center? Cost centers drain money. Profit centers generate money. Minimize cost centers ruthlessly. Invest in profit centers generously. The laptop that streams Netflix is a cost center. Buy the cheapest one that works. The laptop that runs your freelance design business generating $10,000 per month is a profit center. Buy the best one available. It will pay for itself. Here's a case study. A woman named Rebecca wanted to start a podcast. She researched equipment and found she could start for about $500 with decent quality, or she could spend $15,000 for professional studio quality. Most people would choose the $500 option or not start at all. Rebecca did the math differently. She asked, if I invest $15,000 in professional equipment, can I generate more than $15,000 in revenue from this podcast? She believed she could through sponsorships, courses, and coaching. She spent the $15,000. She launched the podcast with exceptional audio quality that made her stand out. Within 6 months, she had sponsors paying $3,000 per month. Within a year, she was making $10,000 monthly from the podcast. The equipment paid for itself in 5 months. Over the next 5 years, that $15,000 investment generated $600,000 in revenue. The question isn't, can you afford it? The question is, will it generate more than it costs? If yes, it's not an expense, it's an investment. The tax code even recognizes this. Business equipment is often 100% deductible in the first year. The government incentivizes you to invest in profit centers. Take advantage of this. Now let's talk about buying time, because this is the highest leverage spending category that almost everyone undervalues. Your time has a dollar value. If you make $50,000 per year and work 2,000 hours, your time is worth $25 per hour. Yet most people will spend 3 hours on a Saturday doing yard work to save $60 they could have paid a lawn service. You just paid $60 to spend 3 hours doing something you don't enjoy. If you had spent that 3 hours doing side work at your skill level, you could have generated $75 to $150. You lost money by saving money. The $25 per hour rule states, outsource everything you can hire for less than you earn per hour. If you make $50,000 per year, $25 per hour, and you can hire a housekeeper for $20 per hour, hire the housekeeper. If you can hire a virtual assistant for $15 per hour to handle email and scheduling, hire them. If you can hire someone to mow your lawn for $20, hire them. Then use those reclaimed hours to do work at your pay level or higher, or to build a side business, or to invest in your relationships and health. All of these have higher returns than cleaning your own toilets. Let me tell you about a consultant named Michael who had this breakthrough. He was making $120,000 per year as a consultant, roughly $60 per hour. He was spending about 10 hours per week on household tasks, cleaning, yard work, errands, cooking. That's 10 hours he could be consulting or building his own practice. He hired a housekeeper for $25 per hour for 4 hours per week, $100 per week. He hired a lawn service for $80 per month. He started using a meal prep service for $300 per month. Total monthly cost, $820. He reclaimed about 10 hours per week. He used 6 of those hours to take on additional consulting clients at $150 per hour. That's $900 per week, $3,600 per month in new revenue. His $820 investment generated $3,600 in returns. The ROI was 439%. But the money wasn't even the best part. He had 4 hours per week left over after the additional consulting. He used that time to exercise, read, and spend quality time with his kids. His health improved. His relationships deepened. His stress decreased. The $820 per month was the best money he ever spent. This is the time-wealth connection. Money spent to buy back time is often the highest return investment possible. Here's what I want you to do. Track your time for 1 week. Every 30 minutes, note what you're doing. At the end of the week, calculate how many hours you spent on tasks that could be outsourced for less than your hourly rate. Those are your target tasks. Start outsourcing them one by one. Begin with the task you hate most. That's usually the one you're least efficient at anyway. Free up those hours and immediately allocate them to higher value work. Track the results for 90 days. You'll be shocked at the ROI. Let's talk about relationships because your network genuinely determines your net worth. This isn't motivational poster nonsense. It's measurable reality. Research shows you earn roughly the average of your 5 closest friends. If your 5 closest friends earn $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, and $70,000, you probably earn around $50,000. If your 5 closest friends earn $80,000, $100,000, $120,000, $150,000, and $200,000, you probably earn around $130,000. The influence is real and it's powerful. Why does this happen? Because your peer group determines your normal. They determine what's possible in your mind. They determine what opportunities you hear about. They determine what knowledge gets shared. They determine what behaviors are encouraged or discouraged. If everyone around you spends every dollar they make, that becomes normal and you do the same. If everyone around you invests and builds businesses, that becomes normal and you do the same. This means one of the most important wealth-building investments you can make is curating your. How do you do this? You pay for access. Wealthy people understand this instinctively. They join masterminds that cost $10,000 to $50,000 per year. They attend conferences and events where tickets are $2,000 to $5,000. They join country clubs and business clubs with expensive dues. Why? Because those price points filter for the kind of people they want to meet. People who are investing in themselves. People who are building wealth. People who can open doors. Before you say you can't afford it, remember the ROI calculation. If you pay $10,000 for a year in a mastermind and you meet one person who becomes a business partner, or one person who refers a client worth $50,000, or one person who shares a strategy that saves you $20,000 in taxes, was it worth it? Absolutely. The people who won't pay for access stay in the same circles forever and wonder why opportunities never come. Let me tell you about a real estate investor named Patricia. She was stuck at 3 rental properties and couldn't figure out how to scale. She kept trying to do everything herself, learn everything herself, figure it out alone. She heard about a real estate mastermind that cost $25,000 for the year. That was terrifying. It was half of what she had in savings. She almost didn't do it. But she thought about opportunity cost. What was the cost of not learning how to scale? She'd be stuck at 3 properties for years. She joined. In the first month, she met someone who taught her the BRRR method she'd heard of but didn't understand. In month 3, she found a hard money lender who would finance her deals. In month 6, she partnered with another member to buy a small apartment building. By the end of the year, she owned 9 rental properties instead of 3 and had cash-flowing partnerships in 2 apartment buildings. The $25,000 investment led to adding $600,000 in real estate equity and increasing her monthly cash flow by $4,000. Over 5 years, that mastermind membership generated millions in wealth. Best money she ever spent. This is strategic spending. This is how wealthy people think. They don't see the $25,000 cost. They see the potential $1 million return. They're willing to invest in relationships because relationships are the highest leverage assets. Now let's talk about education, but not the kind you're thinking of. The traditional path says you need a college degree. You borrow $50,000 to $150,000, spend 4 years studying, and get a piece of paper that qualifies you for a job paying $40,000 to $60,000 per year. The ROI on that is terrible for most degrees. You're starting your career 50,000 to 150,000 in the hole. It will take years, sometimes decades, to break even. Here's the wealthy approach. Learn skills that pay. Ignore credentials that don't. A coding boot camp costs 10 to 15,000 and takes 3 months. It qualifies you for jobs paying 70 to 120,000. The ROI is instant. A real estate license costs a few $100s and a few months of study. It qualifies you to earn commissions that can hit 6 figures. A Google Ads certification costs a few $100s and a few weeks of study. It qualifies you to charge businesses $5,000 to $20,000 per month for ad management. These aren't theoretical. These are real paths that real people take every year to transform their income without drowning in student loan debt. The self-education arbitrage is even more powerful. You can learn almost anything online for free or cheap. Want to learn marketing? Read 10 books, take 3 online courses, and practice by running campaigns for local businesses. Total cost, under $1,000. Total time, 6 months. Potential income, $50,000 to $100,000 per year. Want to learn copywriting? Same process. Books, courses, practice. Under $1,000. 6 months, $50,000 to $200,000 per year potential. Want to learn web development? Free Code Camp is literally free. 6 to 12 months of focused study. $60,000 to $150,000 per year potential. The college degree costs $100,000 in 4 years. The self-education path costs $1,000 in 6 months. Which one makes financial sense? I know what society says you should do. I'm asking what the math says you should do. For many careers, college makes sense. Doctors, lawyers, engineers need formal education. But for most wealth-building skills, self-education is faster, cheaper, and more effective. Let me tell you about a kid named Tyler. He graduated high school with no idea what to do. His parents wanted him to go to college. He looked at the costs and the debt and decided to experiment. He spent 3 months learning web design through free online resources. He built 10 practice websites. Then he offered to build websites for local businesses for $500 each. He got 5 clients in his first month, $2,500. He was 19 years old, making money while his friends were borrowing money for freshman year. He kept learning, kept building, kept charging more as his skills improved. By age 21, he was charging $5,000 per website and booking 2 to 3 per month. By 23, he had consistent monthly income of $15,000 and 0 debt. His friends were graduating at 22, $100,000 in debt, getting job offers for $50,000 per year. Tyler was 23, 0 debt, making $180,000 per year. Who made the better financial decision? This isn't an argument against education. It's an argument for ROI thinking. If you're going to spend money on education, make sure the income increase justifies the cost. Some certifications pay for themselves in 90 days. Those are worth it. Some degrees take 20 years to break even. Those are questionable. Think like an investor. What's the return? Let's talk about skills that multiply income, because this is where spending becomes almost irrelevant. When you master high-income skills, spending a few $1,000s to learn them seems absurd in retrospect. A $2,000 copywriting course that leads to $120,000 per year in freelance income. That's a 60x return in year 1 alone. A $5,000 intensive on sales that doubles your closing rate and increases your income by $70,000 per year. That's a 14x return. These aren't expenses. These are the most obvious investments you'll ever make. The key is distinguishing between knowledge that's widely available and knowledge that's rare and valuable. Learning facts is cheap. Information is everywhere. Learning skills is valuable. Skills make money. Learning mental models and frameworks is priceless. Mental models change how you see everything and multiply the value of your skills. This is why wealthy people will pay $25,000 for a weekend with a mentor. They're not paying for information. They're paying for frameworks, for perspective shifts, for the pattern recognition that took that mentor 20 years to develop. They're buying compressed time. They're buying mistakes avoided. They're buying the map instead of wandering in the wilderness. Here's the framework for evaluating educational spending. Ask, will this increase my income? If yes, by how much? If the income increase over 1 year is 10 times the cost, buy it immediately. If it's 5 times the cost, buy it probably. If it's 2 times the cost, buy it maybe. If it's less than the cost, don't buy it unless it's purely for joy. A $5,000 course that will increase your income by $50,000 per year. Buy it today. Put it on a credit card if you have to. The ROI is 1,000%. A $300 book that will increase your income by $3,000? Buy it immediately. A $50,000 MBA that might increase your income by $10,000? Run the numbers carefully. That's a 5-year payback before considering the opportunity cost of 2 years not working. Now let's talk about health, because this is where people are shockingly short-sighted. Your body is the machine that generates your income. If it breaks down, everything else collapses. Yet most people spend more on car maintenance than body maintenance. The lifetime cost of poor health is staggering. Medical bills, lost income, reduced productivity, diminished quality of life. Estimates range from $250,000 to over $1 million. Meanwhile, the investment in health is relatively cheap. A gym membership is $50 per month, $600 per year, $7,200 over 10 years. Quality food costs maybe $200 more per month than garbage food, $2,400 per year, $24,000 over 10 years. Regular preventive care, maybe $2,000 per year, $20,000 over 10 years. Total investment in health, about $50,000 over 10 years. Potential savings in avoided medical costs and lost income, $250,000 to $1 million. The ROI is 5 to 20x. But the real return isn't just financial. High energy means high productivity means high income. Research shows that people who exercise regularly earn 9% more than people who don't, controlling for other factors. If you make $60,000, that's $5,400 more per year from exercising. A $50 per month gym membership returns $5,400 per year. That's a 108x ROI. Sleep quality affects cognitive function, decision-making, and emotional regulation. Poor sleep costs you in bad decisions, missed opportunities, and reduced output. One study estimated poor sleep costs the U.S. economy $400. Nutrition affects everything: energy, focus, mood, health, longevity. Eating real food instead of processed garbage costs more, but not as much as you think. The average American spends $2,500 on fast food per year. If you took that same money and bought whole foods and cooked, you'd be dramatically healthier. If you spent an additional $200 per month, $2,400 per year on higher quality food, you'd spend a total of $4,900 per year. That's still less than most people spend when you factor in restaurant meals and food waste. The wealthy approach to health is simple. They treat their body as their most important asset. They invest in quality food, regular exercise, adequate sleep, stress management, and preventive care. They don't skip these investments because they know the alternative is catastrophic. When you're 65 and facing $200,000 in medical bills because you didn't invest in your health at 35, you'll wish you had spent that $50,000 over 30 years on prevention. Here's what I want you to do. Calculate your current annual health spending. Gym, food quality above the cheapest options, supplements, preventive care. Write the number down. Now assess your health habits on a 1 to 10 scale. Energy level, sleep quality, stress management, nutrition, exercise consistency. Be honest. If you're below 7 on any category, that's costing you in productivity and future medical bills. Identify 3 health investments that would increase your effective work capacity. Maybe it's a standing desk. Maybe it's a sleep tracker. Maybe it's hiring a personal trainer for 3 months to build habits. Make one upgrade in the next 30 days and track how it affects your energy and output. Now let's talk about the rare situations where luxury spending actually makes sense, because there are times when expensive purchases are worth it. The key is knowing when. The quality per use calculation is the framework. Buy it for life items where quality dramatically outlasts cheap alternatives. A $300 pair of boots that lasts 15 years costs $20 per year. A $60 pair that lasts 2 years costs $30 per year. The expensive boots are actually cheaper. This applies to tools you use constantly. Your mattress, you spend a third of your life on it. Spending $3,000 on an exceptional mattress that lasts 15 years is $200 per year for better sleep, better health, better productivity. Cheap out on your mattress and you'll pay in poor sleep and back pain. Your office chair if you work from home. You sit in it 40 hours per week. A $1,000 ergonomic chair that lasts 10 years costs $100 per year and prevents thousands in medical bills from back problems. A $100 chair that breaks in 2 years and hurts your back costs $50 per year, plus medical costs, plus lost productivity. Where do wealthy people splurge? Tools of their trade. Items used daily. Health-critical items. Where do they never splurge? Status symbols. Rarely used items. Rapidly depreciating technology. You'll never see a wealthy person cheap out on a mattress, but you'll see them drive a 15-year-old car. You'll see them spend $5,000 on a laptop that runs their business, but $50 on the t-shirt they're wearing. The spending follows the value. Let's talk about experiences versus things because there's nuance here. Research shows experiences provide more lasting happiness than material goods. A vacation creates memories. A watch collects dust, but expensive experiences burn money just as completely as expensive things. The question is ROI. Some experiences have genuine return. A family trip that creates bonding and memories you'll cherish for life. Worth it. A learning retreat that shifts your perspective and increases your capabilities. Worth it. A mastermind event where you meet people who open doors. Worth it. But a vacation designed for Instagram? A concert where you watch through your phone screen? A restaurant meal you'll forget next week? These are consumption. Here's how to design luxury experiences for 50 to 75% less. Travel shoulder season instead of peak. You'll save 50% on flights and hotels and avoid crowds. Use geographic arbitrage. A week in Bali costs less than a week in Miami and offers richer experiences. Slow travel. Rent an apartment for a month instead of hotel hopping for a week. You'll spend less and experience more. Focus on experiences that cost little but mean much. Hiking in national parks. Cooking meals with loved ones. Deep conversations. Watching sunsets. Reading books. Playing games. The best experiences are often the cheapest. Wealthy people understand this. They don't need to prove anything. They don't need to post their experiences for validation. They design their lives around what brings genuine joy and meaning, and most of that costs very little. They splurge selectively on high-meaning moments, not random impulses. The celebration milestone rule is important. Wealthy people do splurge, but strategically. They use luxury as reward reinforcement for achieving goals. Closed a $100,000 deal? Spend $10,000 on a celebration. Hit $1 million in net worth? Take a $20,000 dream trip. These splurges serve a purpose. They train your brain to associate big wins with big rewards. This actually increases motivation and performance. Random splurges when nothing has been achieved do the opposite. They train your brain that luxury is normal and expected, which kills drive. Let me tell you about an entrepreneur named Kevin who used this perfectly. He set a rule. For every 7-figure year in his business, he'd buy a luxury watch. That was his only luxury purchase allowed. In 10 years of running his business, he had 3 7-figure years. He owns 3 watches. Each one represents a massive achievement. Every time he wears one, he remembers that year, that breakthrough, that accomplishment. The watches aren't just jewelry. They're physical reminders of what he's capable of. Their motivation to get the next one. This is strategic luxury spending. Now let's build your spending system, because knowing what to do is worthless without a system to make it happen automatically. Willpower fails. Systems succeed. The income allocation formula is simple. When money hits your account, it gets divided immediately. 50% to needs, rent, utilities, food, transportation, basic necessities. 20% to investments, stocks, real estate, business assets. 20% to growth, education, coaching, tools that increase income. 10% to play, guilt-free spending on whatever you want. Most people do this backwards. They spend first and invest whatever's left, which is usually nothing. Wealthy people pay themselves first. The investment and growth allocations get transferred automatically before they can spend on anything else. They live on what remains. This forces efficiency. This creates artificial scarcity that drives better decisions. Here's how to set it up. Open 5 separate accounts. Account 1 is income. All money comes here first. Account 2 is investments. Stocks, index funds, the money you don't touch. Account 3 is growth. Education, business expenses, income multipliers. Account 4 is operating. Bills and necessities. Account 5 is play. Guilt-free spending money. On the day you get paid, automatic transfers execute your allocation. 20% to investments. 20% to growth, 10% to play. The remaining 70% stays in income and you use it to cover operating expenses. If you can't cover operating on 70%, your lifestyle is too expensive. Cut it. The spending permission system prevents impulse purchases. Under $50 and it meets your predefined criteria? Buy it, no permission needed. $50 to $500. 24-hour waiting period. Put it in your cart and come back tomorrow. If you still want it, buy it. Most times you won't. $500 to $5,000. Full ROI analysis required. Will this generate income? Will this appreciate? Will this free time? If no to all three, probably don't buy it. Over $5,000? Committee decision. Talk to your partner, advisor, or mentor before buying. This eliminates 95% of wasteful spending. Do an annual spending audit. Every October, review every expense from the past 12 months. Categorize everything. Keep, optimize, or eliminate. Keep means the expense is valuable and cost-effective. Optimize means the expense is valuable, but you could get it cheaper. Eliminate means the expense provides little value. Call your insurance company, internet provider, cell phone company. Tell them you're reviewing expenses and considering switching unless they can lower your rate. You'll save $3,000 or more annually from this one activity. Use cash envelopes digitally. Preload spending categories with monthly allowances. Food budget is $600. When it's gone, you stop spending on food. Entertainment budget is $200. When it's gone, entertainment stops. This creates artificial scarcity that forces creativity. You learn to spend less because you have to, not because you're depriving yourself. Get an accountability partner. Meet monthly to review spending. Celebrate wins, adjust strategy. This could be your spouse, a friend, a coach. External accountability works because shame is motivating. If you have to report your spending to someone else, you're far less likely to waste money on garbage. Find someone who shares your wealth-building goals and commit to mutual accountability. Before we close, let's talk about what this all means. The transformation you're after isn't just financial. It's psychological. You're reprogramming decades of conditioning. You've been taught to consume, to keep up, to deserve nice things. You've been told that spending is rewarding yourself, that saving is deprivation, that investing is for rich people. Every bit of that is lies designed to keep you spending, working, trapped. The truth is this: rich people don't spend differently because they have money. They have money because they spend differently. Your current spending pattern is a perfect prediction of your future wealth. If you spend 90% on consumption and 10% on investment, you'll have a small nest egg when you're old. If you flip that ratio, you'll be wealthy. It's not complicated. It's just hard. Every dollar is a soldier in your army. When you spend $1 on consumption, you're sending that soldier to die for momentary pleasure. When you invest $1, you're sending that soldier to recruit more soldiers. Over time, your investment soldiers build an army that works for you forever, generating income while you sleep, creating freedom and options. The wealthy don't sacrifice. That's the myth. They prioritize. They choose what multiplies over what evaporates. They choose long-term freedom over short-term pleasure. They play a different game with different rules and different prizes. You can play that game too. The entry fee is decision. The decision to spend strategically starting today. Here's your implementation roadmap. Week 1, complete the exercises. Calculate your seed-to-fuel ratio. List your consumption spending. Audit your subscriptions. Calculate your time value. Identify your 5 closest relationships and their financial trajectory. Get clear on your current state. Week 2 through 4, set up your systems. Open the 5 accounts. Set up automatic allocations. Implement the spending permission structure. Begin eliminating bad debt. Cut subscriptions and lifestyle inflation expenses. Month 2 and 3, make your first income-producing purchase. Buy your first dividend stock or research rental properties or start a side business with the money you've freed up. Begin investing in education, read books, take a course, join a community. Month 4 through 6, eliminate 50% of your depreciation spending. Keep the car longer. Build a capsule wardrobe. Stop upgrading devices annually. Outsource your first task to buy back time. Month 7 through 12, build your asset income to $500 per month. This might be dividends, rental income, side business revenue. Reinvest 100%. Don't touch it. Let it compound. Year 2 through 5, scale your asset base. Increase your investment allocation as your income grows or expenses drop. Target 30% annual growth in passive income. This is achievable with consistent reinvestment and smart asset selection. By year 5, you should have meaningful passive income, enough that you feel the pressure release. Year 5 through 10, push toward financial independence. The goal is passive income equal to your expenses. When you hit this, work becomes optional. You've won the game. You can keep working if you love it, but you don't have to. That's freedom. This is possible. This is replicable. Thousands of ordinary people with ordinary incomes have done exactly this. The only thing separating you from them is decision and execution. The decision to spend differently starting now. The execution of that decision every single day for years, until it becomes automatic, until it becomes who you are. Now I want to give you something practical. Something you can implement starting tomorrow morning. Because transformation without implementation is just entertainment. Let's build your relapse-proofing plan, because here's what nobody tells you. You'll backslide. You'll have moments where you want to spend, where the old patterns come roaring back, where you see something shiny and your brain screams that you deserve it, that you've been so good, that one purchase won't matter. This is where most people fail. Not because they don't know what to do, but because they don't have a system to catch themselves before they fall. Here's your relapse-proofing framework. First, identify your spending triggers. These are the emotional states or situations that make you want to spend. For most people, the triggers are stress, boredom, celebration, comparison, or loneliness. Stress spending looks like this. You had a brutal day at work. Your boss criticized you. You feel small and powerless. You go online and start browsing. Within an hour, you've ordered $300 worth of stuff you don't need. Why? Because purchasing gave you a sense of control. It made you feel like you were doing something, achieving something, taking action. The dopamine hit temporarily relieved the stress. Boredom spending happens on lazy Sunday afternoons. You're scrolling your phone. You see an ad. You click. You browse. You buy. Not because you needed anything, but because you had nothing better to do. Celebration spending follows achievements or good news. You got a raise, closed a deal, received a compliment. Your brain wants to reward itself. It associates spending with reward. So you splurge. Comparison spending hits when you see what others have. Your coworker gets a new car. Your friend posts vacation photos. Your neighbor renovates their kitchen. Suddenly what you have feels inadequate. You need to keep up to prove you're successful too. Loneliness spending fills an emotional void. You're feeling disconnected, isolated, unloved. Shopping provides temporary companionship. The interaction with customer service, the anticipation of delivery, the unboxing ritual. It's a substitute for genuine human connection. Write down your top 3 spending triggers. Be brutally honest. When do you most want to spend? What emotional state precedes impulse purchases? Once you've identified your triggers, create a replacement behavior for each one. If stress triggers spending, your replacement might be a 10-minute walk, a workout, calling a friend, or journaling. If boredom triggers spending, your replacement might be reading a book you've been meaning to finish, working on a side project, or learning a new skill. If celebration triggers spending, your replacement might be treating yourself to a nice home-cooked meal, taking a day trip to somewhere beautiful, or donating to a cause you care about. If comparison triggers spending, your replacement might be practicing gratitude by listing 10 things you're thankful for, reviewing your financial progress to remind yourself of your goals, or unfollowing accounts that trigger comparison. If loneliness triggers spending, your replacement might be reaching out to someone you care about, joining a community group, or volunteering. The key is having the replacement behavior ready before the trigger hits. You can't make good decisions in the moment of temptation. You need a pre-made decision. Here's a practice script for when temptation strikes. Let's say you're online. You see something you want. Your hand is moving toward the buy button. Pause. Take 3 deep breaths. Then ask yourself these 5 questions. Do I need this or want this? If it's want, not need, continue. Will I remember buying this in 1 month? If no, don't buy. Will this bring me closer to financial freedom or further away? If further away, don't buy. Am I trying to fill an emotional need with a purchase? If yes, address the emotion directly instead. Can I wait 72 hours? If yes, add it to a wish list and revisit in 3 days. If you make it through all 5 questions and still want to buy, check your budget. Do you have money allocated in your Play account for this category? If yes, buy it guilt-free. That's what the Play money is for. If no, you're about to steal from your future self. Don't do it. This 5-question framework has stopped thousands of dollars in impulse purchases for people who've implemented it. It creates a pause between impulse and action. That pause is where discipline lives. Now let's talk about the first 30 days because this is the danger zone. The first month is when most people quit. The old patterns are still strong. The new patterns aren't established yet. Your brain is fighting you every step of the way. You need micro-challenges, small wins that build momentum and prove to yourself that you can do this. Here's your day-by-day plan for the first 30 days. Day 1. Today you set up your 5 bank accounts: income, investments, growth, operating, and play. If your bank doesn't allow multiple accounts, use separate savings accounts or even labeled spreadsheet tracking. The structure matters more than the specific implementation. Transfer $100 into your investment account today. Even if you have to pull it from another area, you're declaring your intention. You're planting your first seed. Day 2. Track every penny you spend today. Every coffee, every snack, every purchase. Write it down or use an app. You're building awareness. Most people have no idea where their money goes. Awareness is the first step to control. Day 3. Cancel one subscription you don't use or don't value. Even if it's just $10 a month, you're proving to yourself that you can let go, that you don't need everything you currently have. Redirect that $10 to your investment account. Day 4. Calculate your real hourly rate. Take your annual income and divide by your total work hours, including commute, preparation, and decompression time. This number is lower than you think. Now identify one task you do regularly that you could hire out for less than your hourly rate. Day 5. Make a list of everything you own that you haven't used in 6 months. Clothes, electronics, kitchen gadgets, books, tools, everything. This is your consumption graveyard. Money you spent that provided zero ongoing value. Day 6. Sell or donate 3 items from yesterday's list. You're creating space and confronting past spending mistakes. Each item you let go weakens the grip of consumption. Day 7. Review your week. How many times did you want to spend but didn't? How many times did you spend but regretted it? What patterns do you notice? Write it down. Reflection builds self-awareness. Day 8. Pack your lunch instead of eating out. Calculate how much you saved. Even if it's just $8, transfer that exact amount to your investment account. You're connecting actions to outcomes. Day 9. Identify your biggest monthly expense after housing. Car payment, student loan, credit card, whatever it is, research one way to reduce it. Refinance options, balance transfer offers, negotiation strategies. Day 10. Call your car insurance company. Tell them you're shopping around. Ask what discounts you qualify for. Spend 30 minutes on this. You'll likely save $20 to $50 monthly. That's $240 to $600 annually from one phone call. Day 11. Delete shopping apps from your phone. Amazon, clothing retailers, anything that makes impulse buying frictionless. If you need to buy something, you can use a web browser. The extra steps create natural resistance. Day 12. Review your spending from the first 11 days. Categorize everything as need, want, or waste. Needs are non-negotiable essentials. Wants are things that genuinely improved your life. Waste is everything you regret. What percentage was waste? Day 13. Commit to a no-spend day. 24 hours where you spend $0. No coffee shop, no vending machine, no online purchases, nothing. Eat what you have at home. Entertain yourself with free options. Prove to yourself that you can go one day without spending. Day 14. 2 weeks in. Reflect on what's been hardest. What spending did you miss most? What triggered the strongest urges? Write it down. These are your danger zones. Day 15. Halfway point. Calculate how much you've saved compared to your normal spending. Even if it's just $50, that's $50 that would have evaporated. Transfer any savings directly to investments. Day 16. Learn about one investment vehicle today. Spend an hour reading about index funds, dividend stocks, or real estate investing. Knowledge reduces fear. Fear keeps people from starting. Day 17. Open a brokerage account if you don't have one. Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, any reputable broker. You don't have to invest today. You're just removing barriers for when you're ready. Day 18. Make your first investment, even if it's just $50 in a low-cost index fund. You're now an investor. You've crossed the line. Your identity is shifting. Day 19. Tell someone about your financial transformation. A friend, family member, partner. Speaking it out loud makes it real. It also creates social accountability. Day 20. Identify one skill you could learn that would increase your income. Not someday. Something you could start learning today. Copywriting, coding, sales, marketing, whatever. Find one free or cheap resource and consume the first lesson. Day 21. 3 weeks. This is when new behaviors start to feel less foreign. Review your budget allocation. Are you hitting your 50, 20, 20, 10 split? If not, what needs to adjust? Day 22. Practice the 5-question framework. Find something online you want but don't need. Go through all 5 questions. See if you still want it after the process. Day 23. Calculate the opportunity cost of a past purchase you regret. Take the amount you spent, multiply by 2.59 to see what it would be worth in 10 years at 10% returns. Feel the weight of that decision. Day 24. Have a conversation with your future self. Write a letter from yourself 10 years in the future, thanking yourself for the decisions you're making now. Be specific. What did these 30 days enable? Day 25. Audit your social media follows. Unfollow any accounts that trigger comparison or consumption. Follow accounts that teach financial literacy, investing, and wealth building. Your environment shapes your behavior. Day 26. Do a pantry and fridge audit. How much food do you have that you're not eating? How much money is sitting there going bad? Commit to eating what you have before buying more. Day 27. Review your investment account. Even if it's only grown by a few dollars, it's grown. Your army is building. Visualize what this will become with time and consistency. Day 28. Identify your biggest financial mistake from the past. What did you learn? How will you avoid repeating it? Write this down. Mistakes are only valuable if they teach you. Day 29. Plan month 2. What micro-challenges will you add? What habits need more reinforcement? What's your biggest remaining obstacle? Day 30. Celebration Day. You did it. 30 days of new patterns. Calculate your total savings and investments from this month. Compare to what you would have done before. The difference is your proof. You can do this. Now you're not starting over. You're continuing. Month 2 through 6 is about deepening and expanding. The patterns are forming, but still fragile. You need to protect them, reinforce them, and gradually increase the difficulty. Let me tell you about a woman named Jennifer who almost quit on day 18. She'd been doing great, tracking expenses, cutting subscriptions, packing lunches. Then her best friend invited her to a destination bachelorette party. $3,000 for flights, hotel, activities, gifts. Her old self would have said yes immediately, thrown it on a credit card, dealt with it later. Her new self knew this violated every principle she was learning. She was torn. She didn't want to miss the celebration. She didn't want to disappoint her friend. But $3,000 was 3 months of her investment contributions. It was $7,770 in 10 years. She sat with the discomfort. She examined her feelings. She realized she was more afraid of judgment than actually missing the party. She talked to her friend honestly, explained she was on a financial transformation journey, couldn't justify $3,000 right now. Her friend understood, offered to celebrate one-on-one instead. Jennifer spent $150 on a nice dinner and gift. She stayed on track. That decision was a turning point. She proved to herself that she could choose her goals over social pressure. This is what month 2 through 6 is about. You'll face tests, friends who want you to spend, family who don't understand, social situations designed around consumption, holidays and birthdays and celebrations. Each one is a chance to reinforce your new identity or slip back into the old one. You need strategies for each scenario. Let's start with friends who want you to spend. The dinner invitations to expensive restaurants, the concert tickets, the weekend trips, the shopping outings. These are your people. You love them. You want to maintain the relationships, but you can't afford to keep up with their spending. Here's your script. When invited to an expensive outing, be honest and offer an alternative. Hey, I'd love to see you, but I'm on a tight budget right now. I'm working towards some financial goals. Would you be up for something lower key? Dinner at my place? A walk in the park? Coffee instead of dinner? Most real friends will respect this and adapt. Some won't. The ones who can only relate to you through spending aren't real friends. That's a hard truth, but it's true. If someone can't enjoy your company without spending money, they're enjoying the spending, not you. Family is trickier because family dynamics are loaded with expectation and obligation. Holiday gift exchanges, birthday dinners, family vacations. These can derail months of progress if you're not careful. Here's the approach. Communicate early and clearly. Don't wait until the last minute to announce you're not participating in the gift exchange. That creates conflict. Instead, in October before the holiday season, send a message. This year I'm focusing on my financial health. I won't be doing expensive gifts. I'd love to do handmade gifts or a spending limit of $20, or just skip gifts and focus on time together. Whatever you propose, make it about you, not them. You're not judging their choices. You're making different ones. For family vacations or expensive dinners, same principle. I'd love to be there, but I can't swing the cost right now. Can we do something more budget-friendly? Or I'll have to sit this one out, but I'll catch you next time. Boundaries feel uncomfortable at first, but they get easier. And the people who truly love you will adjust. The ones who don't weren't supporting you anyway. Social situations designed around consumption are everywhere. Happy hours, brunch, shopping days, sporting events. Our culture equates socializing with spending, but it doesn't have to be that way. Propose alternative. Now let's talk about holidays because these are financial landmines. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's Day, birthdays. Each one comes with spending expectations. If you're not careful, November and December alone can destroy 6 months of progress. Here's your holiday survival plan. Set a total budget before the season starts. If you can afford $500 for all holiday spending, that's your number. Not $500 per person. $500 total. Communicate this to everyone involved. Get creative with gifts. Handmade items, acts of service, time spent together. These often mean more than purchased items anyway. For your kids, if you have them, focus on experiences and one meaningful gift instead of piles of toys. Research shows kids are happier with less. The toy pile creates overwhelm, not joy. For extended family, propose a name draw where each person buys for one person instead of everyone buying for everyone. This cuts costs dramatically and often leads to more thoughtful gifts. For decorations and food, set limits. You don't need to recreate a magazine spread. Simple, homemade, and meaningful beats expensive and elaborate. Here's what happened to a guy named Robert during his first transformed holiday season. Before, he'd spend about $4,000 every Christmas. Gifts for everyone, elaborate decorations, expensive meals, parties, travel. It felt generous and festive. It also meant starting January with credit card debt that took until April to pay off. His first year after transformation, he set a firm budget of $800. He told his family in October. He made gifts. He wrote letters to people expressing what they meant to him. He hosted a simple dinner instead of an elaborate party. He stayed local instead of traveling. He was terrified people would be disappointed. You know what happened? People loved it. The letters meant more than any gift he'd ever bought. The simple dinner was relaxed and fun instead of stressful. He started January with no debt and $800 poorer instead of $4,000. He felt lighter, not deprived. That taught him something crucial. The meaning of holidays isn't in the spending, it's in the connection. We've been conditioned to believe spending equals caring. It doesn't. Presence equals caring. Time equals caring. Attention equals caring. Money is just money. Now let's talk about raises and windfalls because these are the most dangerous moments for lifestyle inflation. You get a raise, a bonus, a tax refund, an inheritance, a gift. Suddenly you have more money. Your brain immediately wants to spend it. Here's your pre-commitment strategy. Before you get the windfall, decide what you'll do with it. 50% to investments, 30% to debt payoff if you have debt, 20% to something you genuinely want or need. Lock this in as a rule. Don't decide in the moment. Decide now in advance when you're clear-headed. When the money hits, execute the plan immediately, the same day. Transfer it before your brain starts inventing reasons why you should spend it differently. I worked with a teacher named Linda who received a $15,000 inheritance when her grandmother passed. Before, she would have spent it on a new car or home renovations or a big trip. Something visible. Something that felt like honoring her grandmother. But she'd learned the principles. She sat with it. She thought about what her grandmother would actually want for her. Freedom, security, options. She put 50%, $7,500 into index funds. She put 30%, $4,500 toward her student loans. She used the remaining $3,000 for a meaningful trip to a place her grandmother had always talked about. That money transformed her financial trajectory. The $7,500 grew to over $15,000 in 8 years. The debt payoff saved her over $2,000 in interest. The trip gave her memories she'll carry forever. She honored her grandmother by building the kind of life her grandmother wanted for her. Not by consuming the inheritance, but by multiplying it. This is how wealth is built. Not by earning more necessarily, though that helps, but by directing every dollar toward growth instead of consumption. Let's talk about debt more specifically, because many of you listening are carrying debt. Credit cards, student loans, car loans, medical debt. This debt is an anchor. It's preventing you from building wealth. Interest payments are money pouring out of your life every month that could be growing in investments. You need a debt elimination plan that's aggressive but sustainable. Here's the framework. List all debts, amount owed, interest rate, minimum payment. Sort by interest rate, highest to lowest. This is the avalanche method, pay minimums on everything. Take every extra dollar and throw it at the highest interest debt. When that's paid off, take that payment plus the extra dollars and attack the next highest rate. The momentum builds. Each debt you eliminate frees up more money to attack the next one. If you need psychological wins more than mathematical optimization, use the snowball method instead. Sort by balance, smallest to largest. Pay off the smallest debt first. The quick win provides motivation. Then roll that payment into the next smallest. The method matters less than consistency. What matters most is this. While you're paying off debt, you must stop accumulating new debt. Cut up the credit cards. Delete the payment info from online stores. Make it hard to spend money you don't have. Every new dollar of debt is a step backward. You're running up a down escalator. You have to stop going down before you can make progress going up. I know some financial advisors say to invest while paying off debt. The math sometimes supports this, especially with low-interest debt. But psychology matters more than math. The mental freedom of being debt-free is worth more than the theoretical investment returns you might miss. Let me tell you about a couple, Derek and Michelle. They had $80,000 in debt. Credit cards, car loans, student loans. They were making minimum payments and getting nowhere. The interest was eating them alive. They were paying over $1,000 a month just in interest. Money vanishing into the void. They got radical. They sold one of their 2 cars. Michelle started biking to work. They moved to a cheaper apartment. They cut their expenses to the bone. They threw $3,000 a month at the debt. It was painful. Their friends didn't understand. Their family worried, but they were focused. In 27 months, they were debt-free. $80,000 gone. Every penny they'd been paying to creditors was now theirs to deploy. They immediately redirected $3,000 per month to investments. Within 5 years, they had $200,000 invested. Within 10 years, $500,000. The 2 years of intensity bought them a lifetime of freedom. They look back on that period as the best decision they ever made. Not because it was fun. It wasn't. But because it unlocked everything that came after. If you're in debt right now, hear this. You can get out. It won't be fast. It won't be easy. But it's possible. Every extra dollar you throw at it speeds up your freedom date. Every month that passes brings you closer. The pain is temporary. The freedom is permanent. Now let's talk about increasing your income, because at some point, cutting expenses reaches a limit. You need a roof over your head. You need food. You need basic transportation. You can only cut so deep, but your income has no ceiling. If you want to accelerate your wealth building, you need to make more money. The fastest way to increase income is to increase the value you provide. You do this by learning high-income skills. These are skills that businesses will pay a premium for. Copywriting, sales, marketing, web development, design, project management, data analysis. Skills that directly generate or save money for companies. Pick one skill. Spend 90 days learning it intensively. Books, courses, practice. Then start offering that skill as a service. Charge low at first to build a portfolio and testimonials. A few months in, raise your rates. Keep raising them until people start saying no, then pull back slightly. Within a year, you can be making an extra $1,000 to $3,000 per month from a side skill. That's $12,000 to $36,000 annually on top of your day job. All of that can go straight to investments. You're not spending it. You're not inflating your lifestyle. You're building wealth faster. Let me tell you about a guy named Carlos. He worked in customer service making $45,000. He was maxing out his expense cutting. He couldn't live any cheaper without sacrificing health or sanity. He needed to increase income. He looked at high-income skills. He chose sales copywriting. He spent 3 months learning, reading books, taking a few affordable courses, writing practice pieces. Then he reached out to small businesses offering to write sales emails. He charged $500 for a campaign. He booked 2 clients in his first month. $1,000. He delivered great results. They referred him. He raised his rates to $1,000 per campaign. He booked 4 campaigns over the next 2 months. $4,000. He kept learning, kept improving, kept raising rates. By month 6, he was charging $2,000 per campaign and booking 2 to 3 per month. By month 12, he was making $4,000 to $6,000 monthly on the side. That's $48,000 to $72,000 annually on top of his day job. He invested every penny of side income. His main job covered expenses. His side income built wealth. Within 3 years, his investment account hit $200,000. Within 5 years, $400,000. The side income accelerated. This is normal. This is part of the process. What separates people who succeed from people who quit is what they do after the relapse. Most people use the relapse as evidence that they can't change, that they're not capable, that they might as well give up. They spiral. One bad purchase becomes a bad week, becomes a bad month, becomes abandoning the whole thing. Don't do this. Instead, use this framework. Acknowledge the relapse without judgment. You spent money you wish you hadn't. Okay, that happened. You're human. Identify the trigger. What emotional state preceded the purchase? Stress, boredom, comparison? What happened right before you bought? Learn from it. What could you have done differently? What replacement behavior would have helped? How can you catch it earlier next time? Forgive yourself. Seriously. Beat yourself up and you'll associate this journey with shame and pain. You'll quit. Treat yourself with compassion and you'll learn and continue. Get back on track immediately. The next spending decision, make it a good one. Don't wait until Monday or next month. Right now, the very next dollar. One bad decision doesn't erase weeks of good ones. Don't throw away your progress because of one moment of weakness. I've worked with hundreds of people through this transformation. Every single one relapsed at some point. Everyone? The ones who succeeded treated relapses as data points, not verdicts. They learned and continued. The ones who quit treated relapses as proof of inadequacy and gave up. Let me tell you about a woman named Ashley who had a spectacular relapse. She'd been doing great for 4 months. Tracking spending, investing consistently, building momentum. Then she had a terrible day. Her car broke down. Her boss yelled at her. She got in a fight with her partner. She was stressed and depleted. She went online to distract herself. Started browsing. Before she knew it, she'd spent $800 on clothes she didn't need. The moment the purchases processed, she felt sick. She'd just undone a month of progress. She called me in tears. I'm such a failure. I can't do this. I knew I couldn't change. I stopped her. You're not a failure. You're human. You had a bad day and reverted to an old coping mechanism. That's data, not destiny. We walked through the framework. She acknowledged the relapse. She identified the trigger, stress, and feeling out of control. She learned from it. Next time she's that stressed, she'll call a friend or go for a run instead of shopping. She forgave herself. She got back on track the next day. She even returned some of the clothes. Got $400 back. That relapse became a turning point. She learned her stress trigger and installed a better response. She didn't repeat it. 3 years later, she's built a $200,000 investment portfolio and eliminated all debt. That one $800 mistake didn't define her. How she responded to it did. Now I want to give you some advanced strategies for once the basics are locked in. Once you're consistently saving and investing, once the systems are automatic, once the patterns are habits, that's when you can optimize and accelerate. First strategy, geographic arbitrage. If you can work remotely, consider living in a lower cost of living area. The difference in expenses can be massive. $1,000 a month in rent savings is $12,000 annually. Invested at 8%, that's over $280,000 in 20 years. From one decision to live somewhere cheaper. I know a software developer named Priya who made this move. She was living in San Francisco paying $3,500 for a one-bedroom apartment. Her company went remote during the pandemic. She moved to Austin. Same job, same salary, but her rent dropped to $1,400 for a bigger place. That's $2,100 monthly savings. $25,000 annually. She invested every penny. 5 years later, that decision had generated over $150,000 in investment growth. She didn't sacrifice quality of life. She actually improved it. Bigger apartment, lower stress, more savings. Second strategy, house hacking. If you can buy a multi-unit property, live in one unit, rent out the others. The rental income covers your mortgage and expenses. You live for free or near free. This eliminates your biggest expense and turns your housing into an income-producing asset. A duplex where you live in one side and rent the other. A triplex or fourplex with the same approach. The rental income from your tenants pays your mortgage. You live free. All the money you would have spent on housing can now go to investments. Third strategy, skill stacking. Don't just learn one skill. Learn multiple complementary skills. Writing plus marketing plus sales. Design plus development plus business. The combination makes you exponentially more valuable than the sum of the parts. Someone who can write and market and sell can build an entire business. Someone who can design and code and understand business can create and launch products. Skill stacking multiplies your income potential. Fourth strategy, tax optimization. Most people overpay taxes by thousands annually. Learn the tax code. Use retirement accounts for tax advantages. 401k contributions reduce taxable income. HSAs are triple tax advantaged. Roth IRAs grow tax-free forever. If you're self-employed or have side income, you have even more options. Home office deductions, equipment depreciation, business expense write-offs. A good accountant pays for themselves many times over. Let's say you make $70,000. With no optimization, you might pay $15,000 in taxes. With proper use of retirement accounts and deductions, you might pay $10,000. That's $5,000 saved. Invested annually at 8%. That's $90,000 over 15 years. From tax optimization alone, Fifth strategy, investing in yourself first. Before you invest in stocks or real estate, invest in your earning capacity. A $2,000 course that increases your income by $10,000 per year returns 500% in year one, then keeps returning forever as your higher income persists. Your earning capacity is your highest return asset. Develop it aggressively. Now let's talk about the wealth acceleration phase. This is when your assets start generating meaningful income, when your investments are producing thousands per month, when you can feel financial freedom approaching. This phase typically starts when you hit 100,000 to 200,000 invested. The compound growth accelerates. The income becomes noticeable. The timeline to freedom becomes clear. This is also the most dangerous phase, because you'll be tempted to increase spending. You have money coming in. Your net worth is growing. Your brain will say you can afford to loosen up, to enjoy life a little, to reward yourself for the progress. Resist this. This is when you double down. This is when you take the income from your assets and reinvest it aggressively. You're in the exponential part of the curve. Every dollar you add now multiplies faster than the dollars you added early on. The finish line is in sight. Don't slow down. Sprint. I know a couple, Tom and Rachel, who reached this phase and made a critical mistake. They had built $200,000 in investments over 7 years. It was generating about $800 per month in dividends and growth. They were so proud. They decided to use that $800 to upgrade their lifestyle. Nicer apartment, better cars, more dinners out. They stopped contributing new money and just let the existing investments grow. 10 years later, they had $400,000. Nice, but not life-changing. If they had continued investing and reinvesting for those 10 years, they would have had over $1 million. The lifestyle upgrade cost them $600,000 in net worth. That's the true price of lifestyle inflation at the wrong time. Compare to another couple, James and Lisa. Same situation. $200,000 invested, $800 monthly returns. They treated that $800 as if it didn't exist. Reinvested every penny. Kept contributing their own money. 10 years later, they had $1.3 million. They reached financial independence at 48 and 46. Retired from corporate work. Now they do what they want. The discipline during the wealth acceleration phase bought them decades of freedom. Let me give you a visualization exercise for staying motivated during the long middle. The long middle is years 3 through 10. The early excitement has worn off. The finish line isn't visible yet. This is where discipline is tested. Close your eyes and picture your life at financial independence. What does your typical day look like? When do you wake up? What do you do first? Who do you spend time with? What projects are you working on? Where do you live? How do you feel? Build this vision in detail. Make it vivid. Write it down. Draw it. Create a vision board. Visit this vision regularly. Daily, if possible. This becomes your anchor. When you want to spend on something frivolous, you check in with your vision. Does this purchase bring me closer to that life or further from it? The answer is almost always further. That makes the choice clear. Your vision has to be compelling enough to outweigh momentary impulses. If your vision of financial independence is vague, you won't have the motivation to sustain discipline. But if your vision is rich and detailed and emotionally resonant, it will pull you forward. What's yours? If you can't articulate your vision of financial freedom, you won't have the fuel to get there. Spend time on this. Make it real. Make it compelling. Let it guide your daily choices. Now let's talk about the final phase. Wealth preservation and legacy. Once you've reached financial independence, once you're passive, many people reach financial independence and immediately inflate their lifestyle to match the income. They've been disciplined for years. Now they feel like they can finally spend. So they do. Big house, luxury cars, expensive vacations, all the things they denied themselves. And you know what? The stress doesn't go away. It just changes form. Now they're managing a complex, expensive life. They have more stuff that needs maintenance, more obligations, more complication. The freedom they worked for gets buried under new complexity. Don't do this. When you reach financial independence, increase your lifestyle slowly and selectively. Add only the things that genuinely improve your quality of life. A better mattress, a house cleaner, more time with loved ones, experiences that matter. But resist the urge to change everything. The simple, low-cost life that got you here was probably pretty good. Don't abandon it for complexity. Instead, focus on impact. You have excess capital. You can deploy it in ways that matter. Fund causes you care about. Invest in people and projects. Build businesses that create value. Support your community. Create something that outlasts you. I know a man named Richard who reached financial independence at 52. His investments generated $120,000 per year. His expenses were $50,000. He had a $70,000 surplus annually. He was tempted to buy a vacation home, upgrade his car, travel constantly. But he remembered why he started this journey. Freedom. A vacation home isn't freedom. It's another thing to manage. He kept his lifestyle basically the same. Took the $70,000 annual surplus and split it 3 ways. $20,000 to causes he cared about. Scholarships for underprivileged kids. Environmental nonprofits. Local community programs. $20,000 to helping family members. Paid off his sister's debt. Funded his nephew's education. Gave his parents the retirement they couldn't afford. $30,000 to investments for his grandchildren who didn't exist yet. He was building generational wealth. He told me the joy of giving exceeded any pleasure he could have gotten from buying things. He was using his wealth to create impact. That felt meaningful in a way consumption never did. This is what wealth is for. Not to display, not to hoard, but to create freedom, security, and impact for yourself and others. Now I need to address something important. What if you're starting late? What if you're 40 or 50 or 60 and you haven't been investing? What if you've spent decades consuming and you're behind? Is it too late? No, it's not too late. But you need to be realistic. You don't have 30 years of compound growth ahead of you. You have 10 or 20. That means you need to be more aggressive. Higher savings rate. More income growth. More intensity. The principles are the same, but the timeline is compressed. If you're 50 and you start investing $2,000 per month, you'll have over $500,000 by 65 at 8% returns. That's not early retirement, but it's a secure retirement. If you can push it to $3,000 per month, you'll have over $800,000. If you start a side business and throw an additional $1,000 per month at it, you'll cross $1 million. It's not too late. It's just harder. You don't have the luxury of time doing the heavy lifting. You have to do more of the lifting yourself. But it's possible. I've seen people in their 50s build substantial wealth in a decade. It requires focus and sacrifice and hustle, but it's doable. Let me tell you about a woman named Gloria. She was 53 when she started. She'd spent her whole life living paycheck to paycheck. She was a nurse making $65,000. No savings, no investments, no plan. She had a wake-up moment when a colleague had a medical emergency and couldn't work for 6 months. No savings meant financial devastation. Gloria realized she was one emergency away from the same fate. She got serious. She cut her expenses to $40,000. She picked up extra shifts. She started a small medical consulting business on the side. Between her main job and side income, she was making $90,000. Living on $40,000. Investing $50,000 per year. She did this for 12 years. At 65, she had over $800,000 invested. Her investments generated $32,000 annually. Combined with Social Security, she had a comfortable retirement. She started at 53 with nothing and retired secure at 65. It took 12 years of intensity, but she did it. If you're starting late, you need Gloria's intensity. You can't coast, but you can absolutely build security. Now let me close with some hard truths. This journey is not for everyone. Most people won't do this. They'll listen to this, nod along, maybe even get excited. Then they'll go back to their normal patterns. They'll spend on consumption. They'll prioritize comfort over growth. They'll choose immediate pleasure over distant freedom. And that's okay. This isn't a moral judgment. It's just reality. Building wealth requires delaying gratification for years. It requires saying no constantly. It requires swimming against the cultural current. It requires being different from your peers. It requires discipline on days you don't feel like it. It requires sacrificing today for tomorrow. Most people aren't willing to do this. And that's why most people retire broke or close to it. But you're still listening, which means you're different. You're someone who wants more than the default path. You're someone willing to sacrifice comfort for freedom. You're someone who understands that temporary pain buys permanent gain. So let me tell you what's on the other side. Financial independence isn't just about the money. It's about options. It's about waking up and choosing how to spend your day. It's about working because you want to, not because you have to. It's about relationships without financial stress poisoning them. It's about generosity without guilt. It's about creativity without economic pressure. It's about presence without anxiety. It's about dignity in your later years. It's about legacy for your children and grandchildren. It's about living according to your values instead of your paycheck. That's what's on the other side of this journey, and here's what you need to know. You can do this. You're capable of more discipline than you think. You're stronger than your impulses. You're smarter than your past patterns. Every person who's achieved financial independence was once exactly where you are now. Zero invested, full of doubt, wondering if they could really do this. They didn't have any secret advantage. They just decided to start and then they kept going. One day at a time, $1 at a time, one decision at a time. You can do the same. Your future self is watching you right now. That version of you 10 or 20 years from now is waiting to see what you'll choose. Will you choose momentary pleasure or lasting freedom? Will you look rich while staying broke, or look broke while becoming rich? Will you trade your future for fleeting dopamine hits, or build an empire one strategic decision at a time? That future self will either thank you or resent you. The choice is happening right now, today, in this moment, and every moment forward. Every dollar is a vote. Every spending decision is declaring what you value. The wealthy have already made their choice. They've decided that freedom matters more than appearances, that assets matter more than stuff, that compound growth matters more than instant gratification. The only question left is, what will you choose? Your financial future is being written in your spending patterns today. Make it a story worth reading. Make it a life worth living. Make it a legacy worth leaving. You have everything you need to start. Knowledge, framework, examples. Now you just need to take the first step. Open that investment account. Transfer that first dollar. Cancel that subscription. Track that expense. Whatever the first action is for you, do it today. Not tomorrow. Today. Because here's the final truth. The best time to start was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Right now. This moment. You can't change the past. You can't get back the money you've already spent. But you can change what happens next. You can redirect the next dollar. You can make a different choice. You can start building instead of consuming. And if you do, if you commit to this path, if you stick with it through the hard middle and the temptations and the relapses and the doubt, you'll reach the other side. And when you do, you'll look back on this moment as the turning point. The day everything changed. The day you decided your freedom mattered more than the temporary pleasure of consumption. The day you chose to spend like you're broke so you could become rich. Go do it. Your future is waiting.